Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite actions in DC20, and that's the help action. I don't see my players use it often, so I figured this would be a good way for me to demonstrate how the help action can help you in combat in DC20. As we can see here, the help action in DC20, it costs one action point. It provides a D8 help die, and it can be used in a couple different ways. One of which is to help with an attack check, and another is to help with a skill or trade check. If you're helping with a skill or trade check, it's important to realize that you need to have mastery in the skill or trade that you're helping with. And if you're helping with the attack check, you need to be within one space of either the attacker or the person who's being attacked. There's also the bottom clause on the multiple help penalty. This states that each time that you provide the help action during your turn, the help die decays one step, starting out at a D8 and then becoming a D6 and finally a D4. One thing that DC20 does that encourages you to take different actions on your turn rather than just attacking four times is the multiple check penalty, where you get stacking disadvantage for each check that you make of the same type during your turn. So, if you attack once, that attack is just a normal attack roll. Unless you're dual wielding, your second attack is going to be at disadvantage, your third attack at double disadvantage, and if you were to make a fourth attack, it would be at triple disadvantage. While it is true that you can empower yourself to remove the disadvantage by granting yourself an instance of advantage, that may not be the most opportune thing to do. Maybe instead, consider taking the help action. I have a demonstration that I'll show you in a little bit, but providing that D8 help die can help push a miss into a hit. It can help push a hit into a heavy hit. With the by 5 system, every 5 that you beat a creature's physical defense by is going to be an additional point of damage that you deal. Also noteworthy is the fact that there's physical damage reduction, which on a normal hit will reduce the damage incoming by 1 or 2 points, depending on how much physical damage reduction the creature has. So, by providing the help action, you can help break through that damage resistance by pushing a normal hit to a heavy hit. The help action is also very useful in skill challenges. That's the main reason that you would be using the help action outside of combat, would be in a skill challenge where instead of making your own check, you can provide help and then roll a d8. The interesting thing there is the way that skill challenges work. So, in a skill challenge, you have a DC that you need to beat, and you have a certain number of success points that you need in order to succeed. Everybody gets one check, and you try to earn as many successes as you can. The thing is, if the DC is high and your modifier is low, let's say that you need to roll a 10 or better on your D20, you might be better off providing help because you have about a 50% chance of getting a 5 on the D8, which will provide another success automatically. It is noteworthy that you don't necessarily need to get a 5 because let's say that the DC is 14. If the DC was 14, and the player making the check rolled a 17, you getting even a 2 on a d8 is going to provide an additional success. So you can see how help can be very useful on a skill challenge. In one of my games recently, a group of player characters wanted to intimidate some goblins. So I ran it as a skill challenge. I did, set the DC at 14, and I said that they needed a number of successes equal to the number of players. Of course, I didn't reveal that up front. They didn't know what the DC was, and they didn't know how many successes they were going to need to succeed. What ended up happening is one of the players made the intimidation roll, and the other three helped. The end result was the player who made the roll got a 21, and with 3d8 help dice, which each of those players rolled individually to see how effective they were at helping, they got a total of 31. And when you do the math on it, 14 was a success, and every by 5 was an additional success. So they earned 2 successes at 19, 3 successes at 24, and then the 4th success needed at 29. So their 31 got them the 4 successes that they needed, and they succeeded in intimidating the goblins. This is a very good example of how the by 5 system and adding a d8 as help is very potent. Even in combat, the ability to add an extra d8, and if you were to take the help action multiple times, a d6, a d4, it really can make a huge impact on somebody's attack. I would liken it to Bardic Inspiration in D&D 5th edition. Everybody loves to have Bardic Inspiration on them, although it is often forgotten about. But adding that D8 will oftentimes, or D6, whatever the Bardic Inspiration die is at the time, will often help to push that failed attempt to a success. Now in DC20, that die is even more impactful because of the by 5 system. Another reason that the help action in DC20 is so strong is because of the 4-point action economy. Since you have 4 action points on your turn, and you can spend them however you would like, it doesn't feel bad to spend 1 or even 2 actions on taking the help action, because you still have 2 or 3 other actions in that case to do things like move, attack twice, and take 2 help actions. You have a lot of flexibility in how you take your turn. As you can see here on the map, the player character is being represented by my pre-generated ranger, and they have ended up in a precarious situation. I have the 2 enemies, which are goblins. They are highlighted red and blue so that as I describe the scene, it's easier for you to tell which one I'm talking about. Essentially, what happened is the player character moved up to the blue goblin on their turn, and they attacked the blue goblin. When it came time for the 2 goblins to go, they were at a shared initiative point where they could spend their action points together, and this is how the scene unfolded. Blue Goblin was already in melee with our hero. Blue Goblin attacks the ranger with its short sword. Blue Goblin spends its second action point, attacks the hero with his light shield. Blue Goblin takes help action, adding a d8 and a d6 to the red goblin's attack. I flavored this as the blue goblin was rustling the branches. As you could see there in some tree cover, he was distracting our hero. And then the red goblin spent all 4 of his action points. Now, it's not necessarily the best thing to do, usually, except I have had it explained that DC20 asks how bad do you want to do the thing? And to test the limit of what's possible, I had this goblin take the attack action and then empower, empower, empower with his last three actions, having triple advantage on his attack roll, plus a d8, plus a d6. Obviously, crit fishing at that point, and he did land a crit. Not only the crit, which was 24 when you add in his attack bonus, but then the d8 and the d6 pushed the attack roll up to 35. I think that the total damage on this attack was 8. It didn't drop the player, but they were severely injured after taking this hit. I think this example shows what's possible when players act together, help each other, spend actions on the help action. You can get attack checks and skill checks that far exceed what's possible without providing help. As noted, this goblin's attack roll was actually 24 on a critical. So 20 on the die plus his attack modifier of 4. It was those extra instances of help that added plus 11 to the attack, because I rolled really well on those d8 and d6. You can see how those two actions were way better spent on help than they would have been empowering another attack to get a third attack without disadvantage. And I think when you have a character, let's say I have some player characters who have a PD, a physical defense of 16. And then they have heavy armor, so it's physical damage reduction 2, usually. So, with physical damage reduction 2 and a 16 physical defense, if I were to just normal hit them, they're going to reduce the damage by 2. Most of the weapons in the game only deal 1 damage. It got me thinking, how do you actually damage these player characters to challenge them? I mean, the most that you could roll on a non-crit is probably 23. If you rolled a 19 plus 4, that would be a heavy hit, except that the game also has the parry maneuver for a lot of these characters in heavy armor. So if you start out with a physical defense of 16 and then you parry, then you have a 21 physical defense because parry adds plus 5. So how do you challenge these player characters when the best that you can roll is in 23 and their physical defense on a parry is 21? And it's the help action. The help action is how you're going to push that from a normal hit at 21 to 23 up to a heavy hit with an attack roll of 26 or higher. And the same thing would go for player characters fighting a heavily armored monster that has damage reduction as well. Whether that's natural armor like maybe a bullet would have, or a knight, an enemy knight that's wearing heavy armor. So just some final thoughts. The help action in DC20 is strong because it only requires one of your 4 action points. It's strong because everybody loves adding a d8 to their attack check or their skill check. With the buy 5 system, it's not just a matter of making a failure into a success, but it's almost never wasted because it could push your success up to where you get extra benefits or extra damage. That's my take on the help action. I hope this video helped you to see how help can be useful in your DC20 game. If it has been helpful in your game, please leave that story in the comments section below. Also, I'm going to leave a card. In one of my live plays, a very similar situation happened where 2 enemies had ganged up on a player, one using 2 instances of help and another making an attack with, I don't think it was triple advantage, but with multiple instances of advantage, at least one anyway. And the attack roll there, I believe, was also 35. It was high. Anyway, that video had a lot of technical difficulties, but I've heard that people still enjoyed it. So again, the card will be up above. It is the continuation of our live play right after the cave rave of the first session. So one last thing that I wanted to get out to the community is I have 1 to 2 more spots in the game on the screen currently. This is 5th edition D&D. We just finished Lost Mines of Phandelver a couple weeks ago. I'm looking to recruit again 1 or 2 more players. I'm looking to pick up with part 2 of the Shattered Obelisk from Phandelver and below. The players from the previous campaign, the Lost Mines of Phandelver portion, had a great time and will be returning. And we're hoping that you will consider coming along as they explore the Shattered Obelisk. The game starts next Wednesday, 7/24 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have a link to start playing in the description. We're going to do a new session 0 where we can onboard anyone joining us. I have an interesting perk system for leveling in 5th edition. So if you enjoy the extra character customization of DC20, I think you may find my character options for 5th edition more rewarding than normal. So I hope you'll join us. I'll have a link to start playing in the description, and hopefully you'll roll with us. Take care.